So let's see if we can talk you through this rig. This is the rig that I caught the 57.8 on a recent trip to Island Lakes. So I'm going to try and recreate this for you now, just with the materials that I've got here. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but these are pretty much the products that I like to use and the products that have seen me catch fish in the past. So let's see if I can recreate this for you right now. First of all, we're going to peel off about 18 inches of this boom. .06 these crimps are. Oh, it's really hard to do it over the top of this camera while it's set up like this, but we're going to give it a go. So that will basically go through this crimp. If I can get it through, there we go. And then I am going to put it back through that crimp again, like so. Pull both the tags down and make a nice small loop. Now, using the crimp tool, we're going to put that in the smaller groove. It's a bit fiddly this, trying to do it on camera at the same time, but then we're going to give that a good crimp up. So hopefully, there we go. Going to give that a good crimp and tool down, and then we're going to trim that tag end off as best we can, like that. So that's the first end of your loop done. Get an anti-tangle sleeve, point that through on that end. Okay, so now we get the other end in and get that through that side, and then we're going to tuck that loop back round again. Push that through that side, and then we're going to pull them both down. We're going to pull this one down together and then just slide that down the boom section. So I want my boom section probably about 6 inches, so I'm going to run this down here to the crimp, a bit further down, run this down here about 6 inches, that's about 6 inches there, and then I'm going to pull this tag, small loop in here as well, or a smaller loop as well, and then I'm going to get the crimping tool back onto the smaller one again, into the groove, which I'm not quite in that groove yet. It's a bit fiddly sometimes. So just into that groove there, put it down a little bit smaller and give it a crimp. Lovely jubbly. So I'm going to cut this off like so. Move that to one side. We should be left with a boom section about 6 inches long. Okay, so now we're going to go for the supple part of the rig now. So I'm going to be using the soft end trap. This is the quarter soft end trap in £30. I'm going to be using this. As I said, I'm not sponsored by any of these, but this is what I like to use. So I'm going to pull off about 8 inches of that. Cut that off, and then off camera I'm just going to basically strip the outer coating off. Okay, so now we've got the soft inner braid. It's been stripped off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that over. I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to make it about 3 inches. Make a tiny loop like this. Then I'm going to flip that loop and put that long tag end all the way through. So I want about 3 inches. Put it down, Just going to lubricate that a bit. Pull that down, get that tight. Put my little tool through. Through that, and give that a pull. Lovely. And I'm just going to cut these tag ends off as close to that knot as I can. Close to that knot as I can. About there. There we go. So basically, I've just got a loop of soft, supple material. Okay, so that's the supple section done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the stiff boom, and I'm going to feed the supple section through that tiny little hoop on the end of there, and then I'm going to basically loop to loop it to itself. Run that through there. Push that down like so. Pull that all the way down. What I do sometimes, or what I do with these tags most of the time, is I'll just blob them, and that just tidies them up, but for the minute I'll leave it like that for a second. So that's basically loop to the boom now. I'll put that down in a second, and then I'm going to get some of these. At the minute, these are my favourite hooks. I really can't fault them, and I don't think I've ever lost a fish on these hooks, and I've probably been using them for 2 years. So these are the Ridge Monkey Apex medium curves. These are microbarb. So take one of these out, and these are super sharp as well. As I said, I don't think I've ever lost a fish using these hooks. So super confident in them, and they haven't let me down. So it's a bit fiddly over the top of the camera, but there we go. First of all, we need one of these. These are connection kickers in large. This is green, and these are another Ridge Monkey product that I just keep using. I don't know why, but I just keep using them all the time. So I'm going to get one of these out. I've got it in green, but obviously you can get them in, I think you can get them in like a gravel brown. So I'm going to thread this onto the needle, fat end first. Push that through there, try not to go through it. Push that through there, try not to go through it. And then I'm basically going to thread that over this supple section, like so. There we go. Then I'm going to get the hook, and I'm going to go through the front of the hook. This can be a little bit fiddly sometimes, that's alright. Go through the front of the hook, get my micro ring swivel, and then loop that over the top. Loop that over the top, open it up ever so slightly, and put the hook through the loop. There we go. So what I'm going to do is grab hold of the micro ring swivel, and depending on where you want it sort of roughly level with the barb, which is about there somewhere. And then what I'm going to do is with the other hand, I'm just going to get some lubrication. I'm going to pull this rubber up over the top. So let's just wait for that to focus. And now we should be able to pull that over the top of that there. We can always just adjust this slightly by pulling it through. And that there is pretty much how I would tie that. Now you can always blob a bit of putty onto there as well. So I'm going to go and get a bit of putty, and then we'll blob a bit of putty onto there. So once that's all put through, you can get your blob of putty, and you can basically trap that onto the crimp, and then just mould that around the crimp. And depending on whether you want to use a pop-up or not, which I suppose you could do, you could just shorten that shorten the supple piece down. But basically, that is how I tie that rig.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so. No, 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 no. It's never, ever,